Good morning. How is everyone today? Happy Saturday, January 19th of 2019. I'm grateful that you'd even watch my video and give me the time of day to give my testimony. I have been redoing my videos so I can talk to everyone about what it was like going through the DUMBs, deep underground military bases. And I want to do a good job. This next part of my testimony is what it was like being a super soldier. I will ask the wrenches in my chat room to make sure that my chat room stays in order, because I'm going to try to focus on telling you what it was like to be a super soldier. This part of my testimony sounds fantastical, but it is the truth. I'm not lying. In Yeshua HaMashiach's name, Selah. At the end of this video, I will give my love to everyone that's in my chat room. And I just, again, really thank you for your time and your prayers and everything. So this is part 5 of my testimony. I have been working on writing a book for the past 2 years, but I've only gotten 2 pages written, as well as the outline. It's taking me a long time. I own hollybaglio.com. And on that website, I wish to get it up and running so I can take my testimony and put it up on my website. So in lieu of writing a book, maybe this can suffice. I have drawings to help me explain and show all of you and my loved ones what I went through. I have a lot of stories about being a super soldier. A lot. If you have ever heard of Fitz Springmeier and Cisco Wheeler, they wrote 2 books which are up online and free for you to read. I turned to Fitz Springmeier's books to help me wake up and to help me understand what Joseph Mengele did to me. Mangla, however you pronounce his name, it doesn't matter to me. Joseph Mengele was known as the Angel of Death in World War II. He was one of the Nazi scientists that fled Germany. And in Project Paperclip, thousands of Nazi scientists were brought over to America, North America, South America, Canada, Africa, and other countries, so that they could continue on with their human experimentation. And I will be discussing him. I remember Joseph Mengele. He is the one that created me to be a super soldier. I'm getting nervous all of a sudden. Okay, so I'm going to give you my testimony. And thank you so much for your time. Before I begin, I would like to say, I love you, Abigail. I love you, Rodimus Prime. I love you, Emma. Thank you for joining me. So please help me keep my chat room in order, because again, I'm going to focus on giving you my testimony. I will not be in my chat room. Hi, Bob. So without further ado, please give me a chance to speak, and I hope I do a good job at it. I forget where I left off on part 4. I forget some of the stories that I've told you in part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4 of my testimony. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. Once Joseph Mengele and all those Nazi scientists were done with me and the other children in the DUMBs, for myself, speaking just for myself, I was farmed out to black ops, black operations. I was turned into a soldier. So this is the part of my testimony that I would like to give all of you today. It may sound fantastical, but I'm going to tell you what I remember, put it on the table, and then we'll all take it from there. Please. Oh, where do I begin? I'll start in the jungle. I woke up December of 2014 to the fact that I was used in MK Ultra projects in deep underground military bases. And when I realized that, I lost my speaking abilities for 9 months. It was my attorney that took me into his personal home to help me regain my speaking abilities and to help me get back on my feet. And he is deceased now. Excuse me, that's my cat going back and forth. It's not a ghost. It's just my cat. But I fell to pieces, literally. And it was really, really difficult for me. So during the time that I had trouble speaking, I began drawing pictures. I began drawing pictures of the prophetic dreams that Yud-Hey Vav-Hey gave to me. Yud-Hey Vav-Hey is a personal name of our one true living God that you read about in our holy Bibles. I also began drawing some of my memories about being a super soldier. And it took me 9 months to really understand things and to untangle the dreams that I had that were coming true, as well as some of the past memories. And I'm still coming to terms with all of this. David John Marrow, I love you. When I give you my testimony, I will not be using names of anyone, because I do not want to disrespect the other super soldiers. I love them dearly. They're always with me. They're always in my heart. The other children from the DUMBs that I was with were also farmed out to Black operations. So to me, they're my second family. And I feel comfortable in my own skin being around them because they understand. They went through it too. And they have their memories, and I have mine. And what's really a privilege to me is to be 44 years old and be able to reunite with some of those other children, some of the other super soldiers, to know that we're alive and okay. We made it. We made it. But life going forward is very difficult. A lot of people do not understand, and a lot of people turn away from us. And a lot of people think, oh, it's all in their head. Don't listen to them. They're under mind control. When that's not the truth. Me and the other children from deep underground military bases served our countries. I served for 37 years out of my 44 years of life. I served the UK government, the US government, and Canada's government. They're militaries. Our militaries from the UK, USA, and Canada trafficked us. And that is atrocious on all accounts. Because if we had a choice in the matter, we would not have chosen this for ourselves. We were involuntary candidates. They grabbed us kids from birth. So without further ado, I would be honored if you would allow me to tell you my testimony. Forgive me for babbling a little bit here. I'm trying to calm myself so I can focus and pick up where I left off. Before I begin, I would love to give a shout out to Jesper Burke. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Once they were done terrorizing us children, torturing us and traumatizing us in the DUMBs, they farmed us children out. Some went to become politicians that the vast majority of the population all votes for and loves. And, you know, you have Democrats and Republicans and liberals. Well, some of those people were in the DUMBs with us children. For me and my friends, current day, we were farmed out to Black Ops, Black operations. I understand that the vast majority has a certain mindset or a certain impression when it comes to Black operations because they hear of what the Navy does, the Army, Marines, and they think, oh, well, Black operations, that's a soldier that voluntarily signs up to go off to war or to go off to do secret missions. And yes, while that is true, there's another facet of Black operations. And I was farmed out to that, to be a soldier. I'm going to start by showing you this drawing. I would also like to tell you that this video will be triggering. So if you are an MK Ultra survivor, you may want to turn this video off so I don't trigger you. I ask Yud Hey Vav Hey to speak through me and help me give my testimony to you in Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ of Nazareth's name. So I was farmed out to black operations. I was also a part of the SSP, which is the Secret Space Program. We'll get to all of that. I have a bunch of pictures, but it's already 9 a.m. and, well, let's hop to it. Excuse me, I'm going to cover up a name if you don't mind, because as I said, I'm not giving names. We'll start with this story, if you don't mind. I have a memory of being an active super soldier. Forgive me, my dog keeper's here, so she wants some lovin's. But anyway, I have this one memory in particular, and I'm a little bit fuzzy, but I will do my best to explain myself. There was this one mission that I was sent on with the other kids, who in this video I'm going to call super soldiers. We were sent on this one mission, and go lay down. Up. Good girl. I love you. Me and other super soldiers were sent on a mission. I forget the specifics. I can't remember. And my memory comes in where I'm on a plane. There's a couple of super soldiers there, but there's one super soldier in particular that I remember clearly. We were on a plane. We had been sent on a mission, and we were caught by the bad guys. While we were on this plane, the bad guys had grabbed a hold of us, and they were threatening us. I remember this one super soldier in particular. The bad guys had him restrained, locked in their restraints, like their arms were surrounding this other super soldier. And he's standing up, and he's right there before me. I believe there was another super soldier. The bad guys grabbed him. He was on the floor. The bad guys were restraining him. And there I was, sitting myself on the floor, similar to Indian style, when you're sitting Indian style on the floor with your legs crossed on the floor. And the bad guys had me restrained. I remember all this yelling and screaming. I believe the bad guys shot the other super soldier in the gut. They took this one particular super soldier who I believe I remember clearly. Everybody's screaming and yelling. They took this other super soldier and they threw him out of the door of the plane. I got infuriated. And I started to break free of the bad guys holding me down, because I was going out after that super soldier. They threw him out of the plane, just threw him out. And I start trying to scramble for the door. I was going out of that plane either way. And I wanted to be with that other super soldier, and I wanted to protect him. I couldn't. So anyway, once they threw the other super soldier out, I'm trying to break free of the bad guy's restraint. I make it over to the door. The bad guys are standing there. And I looked at them and I didn't care. I started pushing my way through the bad guys to the door, and I went out of the airplane. It was an airplane, not a helicopter. It was clearly an airplane. The first super soldier they threw out had gone crashing through the trees and landed on the ground. And there I am making my way out the door. I get out the door. I go crashing through the forest, and I believe that super soldier that I remember clearly, as well as myself, had a death experience. We died. We just got tossed out of an airplane. And this is what happened in our death experience. And I believe it was during that event when he was thrown out of the plane and I made my way after him. We had a death experience. This is the other super soldier, and this is myself. In that death experience, when we were super soldiers, in the death experience, we met Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey, and Yeshua HaMashiach, our Savior, from the Holy Bible. The other super soldier and I were walking down this tunnel, and then it opened up, and there's Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey, and Yeshua HaMashiach. And me and the other super soldier went before both of them. I recall God, Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey, God from the Holy Bible, talking to the other super soldier about personal things. And then Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey began speaking to me. I believe he said, Holly, there's a reason for everything. Holly, you're going to marry my son, Yeshua HaMashiach. And I looked at Yeshua HaMashiach and I said, well, why can't we just get married now and have this all done and over with? And Yeshua said, not yet. There will be a time, but it's not yet. When God was done, as well as Jesus was done speaking to us, we began walking away back through that tunnel. And I remember putting my back against the wall and sinking down, sitting on the floor. The other super soldier said to me, Holly, are you okay? And I said, yes, I'm okay. But do you know who that just was? Do you know who we were just speaking to? And at that point, that other super soldier who was thrown out of the plane, as well as myself, came back alive in this world. We did not die. We didn't die. We came back to life. At that point, my memory ends. I will say that I believe I reunited with the super soldier that I'm talking to you about. I have another memory where a bunch of us are in the jungle. I want to say Peru, Machu Picchu, probably pronouncing it wrong. But a bunch of us were in the jungle on another mission. This is another memory I'm telling you about. And I remember standing there with all these other super soldiers, and they had skills and they had abilities, and they were practicing them because we were about to go on another mission. My memories are scattered and fragmented, so forgive me for jumping in my testimony. Anyway, this is incorrect. Like I said, when I first woke up, my prophetic dreams were mixed in with some of my super soldier memories, and it took me a while to detangle them and understand what was happening to me back in 2014. So when I drew these pictures, I did the best that I could. So, but here is the jungle. We were sent on a mission in the jungle. I was in a Hummer. I believe I was the one driving. In the passenger seat was a highly decorated super soldier, and in the back seat was who I know to be my commander, I believe. We were driving along in the jungle. We're sent on another mission. And while we're in the car, in the Hummer, we heard something. We were sitting there in the Hummer. The three of us had taken a drink out of a thermos. And while we're sitting there, we hear a noise. And all of a sudden, the highly decorated super soldier next to me jumps out of the car. And at that point, I get out of the Hummer car, forgive me. I jump out of the Hummer. I go over the hood of the Hummer. And all of a sudden, I remember us running up the trees. The first super soldier, we had morphing abilities, I believe. We were able to morph. He jumps on top of the tree, and all of a sudden he goes from a small guy to a big, huge guy. And there I am. I go running up the tree. This is him and I running out of the Hummer. He shoots over to one tree. I shoot over to the other. We start morphing, and we all of a sudden see the fallen entity that made the noise in the jungle, and we go charging at him like there's no tomorrow. The fallen entity is firing at us. We start firing back. When that entity was firing at us, I remember waving my arms in a certain way, and it created a shield. So the fallen entity's fire, the fallen entity, when it used its weapon to fire on us to kill us, I was able to block it. So me and the other super soldier go running through the jungle after this fallen entity. And we're in combat at that point. It seemed like we had superhuman natural abilities. It was, as a poor example, it was like we were Tarzan on steroids. We're jumping from tree to tree. We're jumping off the tree into the bushes, running as fast as our legs could carry us. This entity fired at us at one point, and the one super soldier dodges off to the left. I dodge off to the right. We split. The entity ended up escaping. There was an alien spaceship, and this entity, when it fired at us and we jumped out of the way of the fire, this entity boarded the mothership, the alien ship, and took off. I recall walking back to the main base where we all were with the other super soldiers. And I recall looking at my commander and saying to him, "I'm really sorry. I failed that mission." My commander looked at me with this stern look, and he said, "Just get back in the Hummer." My memory stops at that point. Another memory. Again, please ignore the name. This is not a name of a super soldier. It's, like I said, I had memories and prophetic dreams tangled into each other, and I did my best to draw everything out on paper. I was having a hard time speaking, and I needed everything locked up in my head to come out so I could recover, and so my alters could reintegrate. We were down in Peru. Machu Picchu, I think. But on this one particular occasion, there was a highly decorated super soldier and myself. We were given a chance to relax, maybe, for a little while. And him and I drove in the Hummer to a place that was like a vacation spot. The water was crystal blue, beautiful and warm. The beach was nice, if that's what you say, the beach. And these are the mountains. Here's the sky, here's the sun, this is the grass, this is a tree. And I remember with this other super soldier, this is actually a good memory, one of the very few I've ever had. When we got to this beautiful area, I was driving. We left the Hummer stuck up on a mountain. And I remember laughing with this other super soldier saying, "Let them clean it up. I broke the Hummer. I got it stuck on a mountain. Let them clean it up. Let's go enjoy ourselves for a few hours." It was beautiful there. Absolutely beautiful. My next memory of being a super soldier. This next memory, I believe, happened about 2008, 2009. I'm going to have to explain this in detail. This was an Astroworld event that happened over a 3-week period. After this, I want to tell you guys about Denver, Colorado, and then maybe it'll make a little more sense. My dog, excuse me. So I was a super soldier for 37 years of my 44 years of life, actively. Joseph Mangli released me. He let me go. The story I tell after this, I'll pick up in 2011. When Joseph Mangli let me go, it was in the astral world. He came to me. It was about a 3-week period where this happened. Joseph Mangli, hence the yellow Hummer, came to me with another super soldier. We were in a yellow school bus. Yellow Hummer, yellow school bus. The other super soldier, Joseph Mangli, let go. The other super soldier left the yellow Hummer, the yellow school bus. She left. She went in her own direction. I sat there speaking with Joseph Mangli for a long time. Please remember, I had to get over having Stockholm Syndrome for Joseph Mangli. I understand he was the angel of death in World War II. Not to digress, but I'm going to. I was told that my nickname in the Dumbs was Death. They would call me Death in the Dumbs as a nickname. Joseph Mangli came to me, and I used to call him Joe the Mechanic. So during this 3 weeks, I remember Joe the Mechanic working on me, so to speak. I remember sitting in a chair. It may have been similar to the Montauk chair, but he was working on me. He told me, Holly, you have to go, and you can't come back. If you come back, they will kill you. Joseph Mangli and I, over this 3-week period, we had sat down at a table, and on the table was nothing but weapons. Knives, weapons, human experimentation, tools, and they were sitting on the table. He said, Holly, you can't come back. If you do, they will kill you. I told him, I don't want to leave. Joe, I don't want to leave. He told me I had to. I remember standing up from the table after the discussion with him. I remember leaving the yellow Hummer, but I turned back to Joe, the mechanic, as I called him. I turned back to Joseph Mangley, and I gave him a hug goodbye. When I left, instead of going my own way like the other super soldier did, I ended up going to my online ministry, one of my online ministries. And I'm not going to say which one, if you don't mind. But the one online ministry in particular that I'm talking about, she has a ministry, but she also has a school. She not only has Bible studies in her school, but I do believe that she teaches her young children at home. She has at-home schooling for children. I believe that she teaches other people's children at home versus sending them to a public school system. And I agree with her to do that. That's what all parents should be doing, in my humbled opinion. If you're going to have a child, you should be able to teach them. If you can't teach them, then you shouldn't have a child. But that's my humbled opinion. So anyway, when I left the yellow Hummer, he brought me to Liberty Corner School in Liberty Corner, New Jersey. Again, this was an Astroworld event. But this was my grammar school, Liberty Corner School in Liberty Corner, New Jersey. He brought me back there. And when I said goodbye to him, I entered back into the school. And I was so fearful and already feeling homesick for Joseph Mangley. Because again, I had Stockholm Syndrome over Joseph Mangley. I decided to go in the school. This is what the outside looks like of that school. This is a play yard. That's where Joseph Mangley dropped me off, was in the front. Now, when I was a young girl going to Liberty Corner School, I'm going to digress. I remember at Liberty Corner School, they brought me and a few other children down into the basement. And I believe that's where the mind control started in Liberty Corner School, was down in their basement, underneath the principal's office. So I incorporated that in the dream. But as I was older and they released me, he brought me back there. And I decided not to go on my own way. I decided to go to my ministry. I wanted Jesus. I wanted to be saved and baptized to Yeshua HaMashiach for as long as I remember. I always wanted to be by Holy Spirit filled and led people. When I was 18 years old, I started going to a Baptist church in Millington, New Jersey, but that church and those congregants have nothing but scales on their eyes and ears. And when I told that church in Millington, New Jersey, about the kids in a cage, they told me it was all in my head. When I told them about the prophetic dreams I had, they told me I was evil. It was demon divination. So when I had originally gotten saved when I was 18, I never made the connection to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh because of the Baptist church and their naivety, because of the scales on their eyes and ears. And they don't preach revelation from the pulpit. They preach that, oh, we're all going to get raptured out of here. We're not going to have to suffer tribulations, which is a lie, a straight up lie. But anyway, when Joseph Mangley let me go, and he let me go, and he told me not to go back, and I'm not going back. They'll kill me if I go back. I decided to join my online ministry. And again, I'm leaving out names, if you don't mind. But I ended up walking back in the school. And when I walked back in the school, I remember seeing my evangelist preaching the word of Yud-Heh Vav-Heh in Yeshua's name. And I remember looking, like walking down the hall and looking in each room. And I saw all these beautiful souls that are saved to Yeshua HaMashiach, just sparkling and shining, because Yeshua gives us a light so we can shine it to the world. And I remember looking at my evangelist and listening to her. I entered into one of the classrooms and I sat down with my other brothers and sisters. And then I began to learn the Holy Bible. And that's what I chose with my free will. But it was Joseph Mangley who let me go. Joe the mechanic. I am happy to inform everyone that since this time I have dealt with Stockholm Syndrome. And the angel of death is not my friend. He's not my ally. He is the one that put me through these programs and tracked me and was with me my whole life, doing this to me. I remember what Joseph Mangley did to the other children. And I believe I explained that in some of my other videos, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So I won't get into that here. But I chose to turn to Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, YHVH, my one true living God and creator, when Joseph Mangley let me go. Can I have a moment? So let's talk about the SSP, the Secret Space Program. This picture may be triggering, so please, if you are a mind control survivor, leave the room so I don't upset you and trigger you. Boy, where do I begin with this? Okay. That is my yellow-orange planet where I lived with Yeshua HaMashiach before I was born on this earth. That's another story. That is the fabric of the universe. That's the lining of our universe. It's Yud-Heh Vav-Heh that holds us together. Okay. This is a galaxy that Yud-Heh Vav-Heh brought me to. It was just him and I. When I woke up, Yud-Heh Vav-Heh and I spent a lot of time together, and he showed me the universe. Just him and I. And this is the galaxy he showed me. This is the Holy Spirit. This is Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. These are, can you hear me? Can you see me? These are the asteroids that are coming to pelt the Earth. They're going to crash into us. You see them? This is the Earth. This yellow stuff that I drew around it is the Holy Spirit surrounding us. This is a galaxy that I was brought to when I was on the SSP, in the SSP. We went to another galaxy. This is Uranus. This is Nibiru, Marduk, Planet 7X. The Anunnaki are coming back. These white spots on it are installations on that planet. That's the Anunnaki's installations. Okay. This is Venus. This is the Seven Sisters. This is Mars. And Mars was my favorite. I loved Mars. These little dots you see all over, they're stars. Neptune. What's the planet next to Neptune? I want to say Mercury, but Neptune and Jupiter. This may be Neptune, this may be Jupiter. I just drew what I saw. I drew what I remember from being in the SSP. This is Saturn. I hate Saturn. I hate the moons on Saturn. I hate it. Jupiter, Neptune, Jupiter. I'm going to have to put this picture down and come back to it. I forgot to tell you a story. In 2011, I'm going to put this story on hold, show you the picture again. We'll get back to it. But when I was telling you about Joseph Mengele, I forgot to tell you a story after that. So Joseph Mengele is the one that let me go. In 2011, I flew to Denver, Colorado. I was flying out there to see if I liked it because I had every plan to move out there. I love the West, Midwest, and it's a lot better than over here. Things are big and beautiful in the West and Midwest, I think. But I flew out there. It was December 2011. While I was out there, 3 days after I was, you should have seen me when I got off the plane in Denver, Colorado, because I had heard so much about Denver, Colorado, and the murals they have. You would walk through the airport and they would have like a statue of a suitcase with a demon coming out. There I am with my camera going, chick, 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 chick. I'm taking pictures of everything. I'm taking pictures of the murals. I'm taking pictures of everything. I look like a complete tourist. 3 days of me being out there, I had gone with, the person I knew out there was one of my bosses from AT&T. I had worked for AT&T for 7-8 years of my life. After that, in this normal life. After that, I worked for Pharmacia, for the directors and the VP of Pharmacia. That was my dream job. But anyway, that's who I went to stay with, was one of my bosses from AT&T. I believe he was going through a divorce at the time. We had been very close friends, and I wanted to move out west. So I flew out there. I stayed at his mansion, and he had a mansion. And about 3 days in, my boss says to me, "Hey, Holly, let's go to Hooters. There's a waitress I really like. I want to go see her. Let's go." So, sure, why not? So we go to Hooters, the bar, and we're sitting at the bar. And I said to my boss, I said, "Can you and your friends please excuse me? I need to use the restroom. And after that, I'm going to go outside and have a cigarette." So I get up from the bar and I start walking to the ladies' room. And you walk into like a doorway, and to your right is the men's and to your left is the ladies. So I start approaching this doorway, and I see this blonde-headed man coming out of the men's room. He says to me, "Hi, Holly. My name is so-and-so." And as soon as he said it, his hand was out. The next thing you know, my hand is in his hand, and I'm shaking it. "Hi, nice to meet you." I believe he scoped me. Scopolamine. All of a sudden, I became compliant. My sense of humor kicked in. We were talking. And he's like, "Would you like to come with me?" I'm like, "Sure." Are we going in the men's room? Now, forgive me, if you have small children, please get them out of the room. Please. Like I said, I'm going to tell you what I remember, put it down on the table, and discuss it, and we can all take it from there. So I'm like, "Sure. Are we going back in the men's room?" Men's rooms are always cleaner than a woman's bathroom. There's never a line in a men's room. And if you go into a men's room, you're bound to meet a hottie. So I follow him into the men's room, the men's bathroom. I get in there, and there's two large guys with black leather jackets on. One of them has their back to me and won't face me and won't let me see his face. The other one's back is to me. We go into the men's room, and the blonde-headed super soldier starts talking to me. He says something to the effect of, and we had a conversation, and I remember bits and pieces of the conversation. He says, "Holly, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I don't really know the Holy Bible, but when you read it in Revelation, there's Holy Biblical Scripture that talks about 144,000 seals. Well, instead of being a Navy SEAL, instead of being on Black Ops, I want to be Yud Hey Vav Hey's SEAL. I want to be a SEAL for him. I want to be his soldier." He says, "Holly, don't you remember the kids in the cage? Don't you remember what we went through?" My memories start flooding back to me at that moment. There was a super soldier that turns around and comes over to me, and he gives me a shot. I don't know if he was giving me something or taking something from me, but he gives me this real big shot. I mean, the vial on the shot was huge. And I recognize that super soldier that gave me a shot as my commander. We continue on with the discussion. The third super soldier that had his back to me, keeping his face from me, finally, after a while, turns around, and I recognize him. I recall him to be a wise ass, a funny guy, a jokester. Excuse my language. Again, please, Wrenches in my chat room. I'm not there. I can't see what you say, but if it gets out of order or there's a troll, please throw a wrench. I'll back you up. I just need to focus on my testimony. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this other super soldier turns around and I recognize him, and he's a jokester. And he's like, he says to me, well, if you love Jesus so much, why don't you just marry him? Love Jesus? I know nothing about him, but okay, sure, I'll go marry Jesus. They told me that they were coming forward to the public. They were going on TV. I said, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not going on TV. Me? I'm the last person you ever want to see on the television. I'm going to digress. And here we are all on HTV, Holly Television, right? But see, it's my own YouTube channel. This is a form of therapy. This is where I can come and go to. So, but to get back to my story, I said, no, not me. Not me. I'm going to go do my own thing. I said, all right, Hall. My commander then walks me to the back of the men's room. To my left, are the stalls. There were 3 stalls, I believe. Maybe 4 stalls. 3 regular ones. Or no, there were 3 stalls. We walk to the back of the men's room. We walk into the handicap stall. He brings me in there. The first 2 super soldiers are standing over by the door of the men's room. And they start talking back and forth. And I hear one of the super soldiers go, shh, shh, shh. She's going to hear you. I don't know what they were talking about, but I heard that part of their conversation. They were talking about me. We go into the handicap stall. I look at my commander, and I'm like, wow, you smell really good. And I just kind of conked out. I remember grabbing onto his jacket, and it was like I passed out almost. When I come to, we're now in the woman's room. Because, to the left is the ladies' room, to the right is the men's room. So there's a wall between the bathrooms. The next thing I know, we're in the woman's room, and I'm sitting on the toilet like I had just used the toilet. And I start coming to, and I recall my commander kneeling on the floor before me. And he goes, Holly, I'm so sorry. He stands up, and he walked with technology. Ancient alien technology, whatever you want to call it, because we have technology that'll blow the vast majority's population's mind if they knew what's really available to us and what's really out there. He walks through the wall, back into the men's room, and the 3 of them vanish like that. So I start waking up more. I stand up from the toilet. And I had this odd feeling on me that something had just happened. And I'm trying to remember what just happened at the time. I walk out of the woman's bathroom. I walk past the stalls, the sinks. I come out of the woman's bathroom. I look at the men's bathroom door. And I could have sworn I had just met a blonde-headed guy with two other dark-haired men with him. And I felt all fuzzy. I felt a little miscombobulated. I walk out into the Hooters bar. I look at my boss. And then I proceed to walk around the entire restaurant of Hooters, looking for this blonde-headed man that I had just met, that had brought me into the men's bathroom. I grab my cigarettes. I go out to the smoking lounge, or the smoking part of Hooters, and I look around there. I went outside of Hooters. I looked around the building, and for the life of me, I could not find that blonde-headed man. But I knew I had just met one. I knew something just happened. I ended up just forgetting about it, pushing it out of my mind. I sat there and I smoked a cigarette. And then I went back to the bar. I rejoined my boss and his friends and the waitress he had a crush on. And they kept saying, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm fine." I didn't tell them at the time what I had felt just happened to me, because, they would have said, "Oh, she's crazy. Don't listen to her." But I knew I just had met this blonde-headed guy. I was in the men's room with these 3 super soldiers. We had a complete discussion, and I couldn't find these other super soldiers. I almost walked back into that men's room. I was so close to walking back in that men's room, looking for this blonde-headed man. I didn't do it, because I didn't want to be thrown out of Hooters or have the cops called on me. So I just stopped and sat down at the table and stayed there with my boss and his friends, or at the bar. And I just stayed there with them. And I just kind of forgot about it. But these 3 super soldiers found me on vacation in Westminster, Colorado, at a Hooters bar. And they asked me what I wanted to do with my life. They were coming forward to the public. I believe that blonde-headed man who I had met was one of the children that was locked in a cage with me when human experimentation was being done. All right, so let's get back to this video, or back to the story I was showing you. All right, so these are other planets in our solar system. That, and that. Mercury, some other planets. Those are asteroids again. They're going to collide in the Earth. This is the moon. You all see the moon out at night. This is our moon. On the dark side of the moon, as you all call it, there's a blue swastika hospital. Well, there's a building in the shape of a swastika. I call it my blue swastika. Forgive me for my terminology, but I call it my blue swastika. There's a swastika-shaped building on the moon. This is the gravity machine. Okay, when you move this, the moon itself will rotate as well as move somewhere else in space. This is how you manipulate the moon. The moon is a satellite. It's not a planet. These are the civilizations of fallen entities and humans living on the moon. The moon is definitely populated. So is Mars. And Saturn has nothing but disgusting, icky reptilians. And I hate them. I can tell you about Saturn. I was sent on a mission to one of the moons on Saturn. I don't like Saturn. I don't like its moons. Hate it. These are mirrors. Okay. There's mirrors in outer space. Some people want to say they're satellites, but I don't think so. I think there's mirrors. So what we're viewing from Earth when we look at the night sky, I believe is being manipulated by mirrors. Just like we have chemtrails, and you look up in the sky and it looks picturesque. Well, those are chemtrails. They're putting a screen between you and what you see in the sky. They're manipulating what you see. Project Bluebeam, something like that. So I'm gonna can I take like a 2-minute break? Can we take a 2-minute break, everyone? I'd like to use the powder room for a moment. And then I would like to get back to talking to you about the SSP, if that's okay. And again, to my wrenches in the chat room, throw it if my chat room gets out of hand. I won't question you. Okay? 2 minutes. Okay, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. So, I'm back. All right. Let's start with this story. When I was in the SSP, on the moon. I believe I was about 13 years old, and maybe I was younger. I'm not quite sure. I'm giving you a rough estimate. I'm not quite sure. A bunch of super soldiers and myself were sent on a mission to the moon, but something went terribly wrong. We were blown to smithereens. We were blown up. We were bombed. Me and the other super soldiers. I think they tried to kill us. I recall we got blown up, and then afterwards, I was trying to drag myself away from what had just happened. And I was on my belly, and I remember using my arms, trying to crawl away on my belly. And there was another super soldier who I recall as my commander. He was doing the same thing, and we're trying to get away. And again, no names. We're trying to get away, trying to get away. Mercenaries came. The mercenary grabbed me and put me in his pod, in his aircraft, so to speak. He told me that I had also fallen into a pit, like in the Vietnam War, for example. I'm going to digress a moment. In the Vietnam War, you know, the Vietnamese would dig holes, and they'd put spikes, like holes in the ground, and they'd put spikes up and then cover it with leaves so that the U.S. troops, as they're moving through, would fall into these pits and get harmed. This mercenary told me I had fallen into one of those pits, and my leg was chewed up. I got one of those spikes through my leg. We're on the moon. We were in the SSP, Secret Space Program. We're on the moon. We had been blown up. We're trying to get away. Mercenaries came by. One of them grabbed me, put me in their aircraft, and they took me to the Swastika building. I know that to be a hospital. I got to put tape on this drawing. It's falling apart. I get to the hospital. I remember waking up and coming to, I was in the hospital. This was my hospital room in the swastika-shaped building. This is glass. And when you looked out of the glass, you saw the moon, the surface of the moon. So this right here is the surface of the moon. Here's a hallway. Here's a hallway. Here's a hallway. Here's a hallway. That, and that are entities, fallen entities. There's a Coke machine, you know, soda machine. I remember waking up in the Swastika Shape building. This is my hospital room. I opened the door and came out to the main hallway. And when I saw these critters, these fallen entities, whatever alien species there are, I saw them in the hallway and I collapsed. I passed out in horror and in fear. This nurse, she had a red shirt and beige pants on. She came running over to me and she picked me up off the floor and brought me back in the hospital room. This was my bed. While I was there for weeks. They told me I had to stay. At this time, I was told that I have clones. Nobody back on Earth would miss me because there's a clone in my place. I was so worried about that clone treating my grandmother, who raised me. My grandparents raised me on my mother's side. I was so worried because I wanted to make sure that that clone treated my grandmother with love and respect. My grandmother was everything to me. And nobody knew I was gone. And if I had died on the moon, it wouldn't have mattered. Nobody would have known that I was gone. While I was there, I said, listen, the doctors came into my room and I said, I want to see my commander. They said, no, Holly, you can't see your commander. So I threw a fit. I threw a big, huge fit. I started wilding out. And finally, the doctors got me to calm down. They wheeled my commander into my room. Here's my room. They wheeled my commander in through this door. I walked over to him. I saw him sitting in the wheelchair, and he was all bandaged up, and he was mangled, just mangled. I knelt down in front of his wheelchair, and I put my hand on his knee, and I said, Commander, are you okay? Commander, are you okay? And he just looked at me. The doctors then took him back to his room. I believe that mercenary came back to the hospital during the time that I was there in the Swastika building. And he had given me money so I could go get soda from the soda machine. I have no idea why the mercenary would have helped me and my commander, but I'm very thankful that he did, because I'm alive to sit here and talk to you today. And then I was brought back to the earth. All right. So, Mars, I believe I gave you my testimony about Mars, and maybe part 4 or part 3 of my testimony. So there's Mars. I'm not going to go back through that, but I'd like to talk to you about Saturn now. I may have told you these stories, but I'm going to retell them. I hated Saturn. I don't think hate is a strong enough word. Me and the other super soldiers were brought up to Saturn when we were young children. And when we were there, when we were there on Saturn, there were reptilians. When you look at the pyramids in ancient Egypt, they have reptilians inscribed on them. You know, half man, half snake. They smell disgusting. When I was on Saturn, everything looked gray to me. Gray and dark. On Saturn, me and the other children were brought there. We were separated. I was brought to a place that the reptilians had made up to look like my home when I grew up on 313 White Neck Road when my grandparents raised me. They had my bedroom exactly the same. They had the house exactly the same. And they just watched me. And I remember being in the bedroom and trying to pretend that I was here on Earth with my grandparents where I was happy. A time came that the reptilians grabbed me as well as the other children. They brought us out to an area where we regrouped. When we regrouped, me and the other children with those disgusting reptilians that just smelled so bad. Oh. I remember this tree. In the tree, there were cables there were cables in the tree, and from those cables, it looked like people were hanging. Like when you lynch someone and you hang them from a tree, well, this tree looked like it had a bunch of people lynched in it, hanging from cables. And I remember that the people's legs were thick and wide. They were dead. I guess all their blood rushed down to their feet and legs, and that's why they were so thick looking. And there were just dead people hanging from that tree. Reptilians romanticized death. They flourished in death. I'm going to digress. I had to do a lot of research and studies to understand what these trees were, but apparently with these dead people hanging in those trees, the reptilians used those trees as some sort of weapon. I hated it there. I hated it. I'm going to give you another memory now. I was sent on another mission with not my typical Black Ops team. I was sent with another team, a different set of people. We traveled to, I believe, one of the moons of Saturn. I have a fragmented memory I'm also going to give to you. When we traveled from one place to another, we were put in this room, so to speak, and we had to wear shields over our face, and we were told not to open our eyes for 10 seconds, because if we opened our eyes and we looked at the light while we were traveling from one place to another in outer space, that we would go blind. We'd lose our sight. There was a young girl sitting to my left, and she opened her eyes during one of the times that we were traveling. And I remember her screaming, just screeching, and she fell off her chair and onto the ground. And I kept my eyes closed as best I could. I tried to reach down to hold her arm, but I was too scared to open my eyes and to move. But I was trying to grab her arm and help her. When we got to our destination, we took off our masks, and this young girl was on the floor just crying and screaming to high heaven, so to speak. Excuse what I say and how I say it. She had gone blind. She opened up her eyes and she looked at the light and she went blind. They had to send her back. I don't know whatever happened to her. She was a young girl. I remember when we had to travel, I would always keep my eyes closed for an extra few seconds to make sure that the light was gone. So when I opened my eyes, I wouldn't go blind. I was deathly afraid of going blind. But on a mission, I was with a different Black Ops team than I was regularly accustomed to being with. And we were sent to, I believe, a moon of Saturn. When we got to this place, we had to, oh boy, where do I begin to even explain this recall? So the other super soldiers and I get to this moon of Saturn, I believe, and we're given a bunch of weapons, and we have to go kill spiders. But these were not your average spiders. They were big, like about this big. It looked to me like a cross between a tarantula and Alaskan king snow crab, or Alaskan king crab. You know, their legs had shells on them, like a crab has a shell, but they were spiders. They were beige in color. Well, we were sent to go kill them. We were not sent to Arizona thinking it was a different planet. We were on another planet killing these things. So we're sent out to kill them. I recall that the Black Ops team and I were on the surface of this planet. We're walking around. We started to approach a valley. There were hills on side of us and the valleys going down. I remember the other super soldiers in front of me. All of a sudden, over the hills and out of nowhere, these spiders, these beige spiders, just come out of nowhere and start running full steam ahead at us. Me and the other soldiers start firing our weapons, but the weapons had no power against these spiders. It seemed to take like 5 shots from our weapon to kill these things. And that just wasn't good enough. They came out of everywhere and anywhere, and I just remember seeing these spiders come out. It takes down the soldiers to my right, and they swarm on top of them and just crawl all over them, swarm them, and they're still coming at me. And I can't shoot enough. I don't have enough bullets. The bullets aren't strong enough. They're not killing them. They take over the leader of the team to my left. And then the next thing I know, they just come at me, and I'm taken down by these spiders. And they crawled everywhere on top of me. I recall how their arms felt when they grabbed a hold of you and they're on top of you. They went everywhere. They went in my mouth. They just everywhere. The next thing in my recall, after that, I recall that I'm inside of a cave. I wake up, my weapon's gone. I don't have my gear on. I'm basically in my underwear. And I wake up in this cave. I believe we were taken to the lair, like the spider's lair, for lack of layman's terms. When I looked around the cave, it looked like there were tentacles hanging from the ceiling and hanging down, and it smelled really bad. In my hand is a briefcase, a big briefcase. It was a thick briefcase, and I have that in my hand, and I wake up, and I remember trying to sneak out of this cave and not touch the tentacles, and I remember seeing spiders laying here and there. There were only a few of them. And I remember trying to sneak out of this cave so I don't disturb them. And I wanted to get out of there and get free. And my memory stops from there. I don't know what happened to the other soldiers. I just remember getting out of that cave with a briefcase in my hand and trying to make it back to my base. I hate spiders too. There's a different memory I have, a different recall. I remember being on a ship in outer space, for lack of better terms. Forgive me. And while I was on this ship, I was with my original Black Ops team. And we were living on this ship. I remember going to the cafeteria, and there were a couple entities there in the cafeteria. And I remember getting food. My commander was there. We were all aboard the ship. My commander had brought me blue juice, like, you know, you have orange juice and stuff like that. I remember my commander bringing me blue juice and putting it on my desk. So when I had gotten to my desk, there was the blue juice, and I just loved the blue juice. It was my favorite. There were a bunch of us there. And again, I cannot and may not use names. I wish I could. While we were on this ship, I don't know if a portal opened or if it was that we opened up a hatch to the ship. But I recall me and a bunch of other super soldiers that I've reunited with in this current day and age. I remember them on this ship. And when that hatch opened, or maybe it was a portal that opened, we were looking out, and all the stars and all the planets just looked brilliant with all their sparkling colors. It was beautiful and definitely a humbling experience. And it was just amazing. I have a fragmented memory still with this event. We had jumpsuits on, and well, they were holographic jumpsuits, so to speak. And I remember coming out of my bunker, and I had my jumpsuit on, but I had turned it into rainbow colors. So I had every color you could imagine on my jumpsuit. It wasn't like a dull blue or a dull gray color. I was lit up like a Christmas tree. I remember coming out, and I see my commander and the other super soldiers. And I'm like, how do you like my jumpsuit? And I just had all these colors on my jumpsuit. I was brighter than a rainbow. And one of the other super soldiers said, if someone sees you, Holly, they're going to shoot you. They're going to see you coming from a mile away. And all of us got a good laugh out of it. I don't have very many memories that are funny or good about being a super soldier, but there's a couple of them where my comrades and I would joke around with each other a little bit. And trying to make the best of where we were and what we were doing. Oh boy. So it's 10:36. So that's what it was like for me being a part of the secret space program. That's what I recall. And I know it all sounds fantastical, but I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. Forgive me, I'm starting to get some chest pains, so I would like to give my love to my chat room and probably shut this down. I thank everyone for respecting me. I thank everyone for their time and their ears and letting me tell you my stories. I do have more stories, but this is all I can remember for the moment. So I should probably go eat and take care of myself and relax a little so I stop feeling chest pains. So let me give my love to all of you. Daria, Luba, Barbella, welcome. Thank you. Sand and Sunaholic, Blue Sky, Bob, Clara, J. Julia Z, U.S. Patriot. Have you cleaned your AK-47 lately? Hey, Meek BFF. I love you, Lynn. Linda Mole, how are you? Exposing My Labs. What's going on, Kim? Great to see you. Amos. ECWN WWF. Anne. William. Meek 12. It's great to see you. Heidi. I'm going to meet you face to face one day, and I can't wait. Evelyn, it's wonderful to see you too. Evelyn, I worry. Someone had mentioned to me going in front of Congress or the Senate. I don't want to go back into the lion's den. I'm scared they will terminate me. But sure, I would love to join that lawsuit. I'd really like my paycheck for when I was a super soldier. I haven't gotten paid a dime yet, and I want the interest too. Who else do we have here? Adeline, how are you, Addie? No, I didn't have a miscarriage, Addie. That's where they just put me. I was a part of the breeding program. I remember being a young girl and a very, very, very young girl, a part of the MK Ultra breeding programs. Probably wording it all wrong, but to be specific so no one takes anything out of context. I remember being a part of the breeding program. What I find to be hurtful and harmful is when others say to me, Holly, you gave birth to a demonic entity. It's serving Satan now. Let it go. Yeah, half of that thing is mine. And I turned to Yeshua HaMashiach. I turned out all right. That was in my body. And they took it from me. So, yes, I believe I was a part of the breeding program that they have. It's hard for me. Hagbard Celine, I love you, Jesper. Liz. Yeah. Waking up and escaping. Bonnie, it's great to see you. Liz. Allison. Montgomery, welcome. Blue sky? Is there Jupiter? Uranus? Yeah, I remember going to Jupiter. I remember a blonde-headed pilot taking me to Jupiter, but that's all I remember. When I first woke up, I was confusing someone I knew in this life with being that pilot from the SSP that took me to Jupiter. He thought I was a lunatic and crazy, as most of people do. But a few years back, I believe I met that pilot. I also used to fly as his wing. I was his wingman. But I don't remember anything about Jupiter, so I can't speak to it. But I believe we went there. Opus Focus, how are you? Nemesis. Virginia Martin, thank you so much for the encouragement. And yes, I'm going to sound the alarm. Things are not right. And we all need to rally around each other, grow strong. We need not to fight each other, but fight the darkness, fight our common enemy. But as your ordained 33 Ezekiel watchman, I am sounding the alarm. We're in the last days and end times. Definitely. And that's paramount. That is the most important thing I can ever tell any one of you. Do I think Joe could have been a clone? No. It was the real Joseph Mengele. Exposing my labs. Forgive me, I'm scrolling up the chat room, not down, so I'm going backwards. Forgive me. But then again, if I go to the library and ever take out a book, I always open up the very back of it and read the end of the story first, and then I go to the beginning. Karen Harrington. I pray for everyone to have full integration. I pray all their altars integrate. Me and my altars are struggling to do so, but we're getting there by the grace and glory of Yud-Hey Vav-Hey in Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Good morning, Taylor B. Welcome. Lake Titicaca, says Allison. Could be. That could have been where we were. It could have been where we were. Not quite sure. And we'll see. So I just really wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here for me and listening to me. And I hope I ran a good video, but I do have more stories. When they come to mind, I'll jot notes down so I can make a part 6 and tell you all of those stories. Because if it helps any one of you wake up from MK Ultra and these super soldier projects, then that's what counts. Because that's when the healing can begin, I believe. But also for the vast majority of the population that thinks this is all fantastical, I hope that my testimony goes to help them wake up, to realize that we have jump rooms to Mars, that the technology and pyramids we still have and use to this day. We have technology 1,000 years old, over 1,000 years old. But the population is still mesmerized. The vast population, 80% of people, still mesmerized by their cell phone. Yeah, well, we have a jump room to Mars. That mesmerizes someone like me. Cell phone, I can do without, you know? Us super soldiers were trained and programmed with each other. We have telepathy. And that's how we communicate. That is the ultimate fighting war weapon, is when you take a soldier and they have telepathy. They have psychic abilities, so they know that their enemy is going to step onto that field before they even get there, so we're prepared. That is the ultimate weapon. Elsa or Elisa, my altars, I'm going to digress a minute. My altars, they don't share their names with me. I don't want to know what I've done is I've renamed them. I have an altar that is named Inés. She gave me that name, but that's one of the few altars that gave me her name is Inés. I like her a lot. She doesn't talk, but she's always smiling. Oh, you got news about Ellie? Razzie Ray, you're here. I've been thinking about you. Nora, welcome, sweetie pie. How are your horses doing? How's Norway? I love you. You're a great kid. I just adore you. There was a Barbie movie that was programming and had holographic clothes too. I wish, am I allowed to say her name? Probably not. I'm probably not allowed to, but there's this other super soldier, and she laughs about my holographic jumpsuit all the time. She calls me Rainbow Holly because of it. So, okay, well, I'm going to shut down the video, go get some food to eat. Hey, Candace Duvall, how are you, my love? Or, excuse me, how are you, love? It's great to see you, Candace. My love to Ellie, Clara, and I'm going to let all of you go. And I appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys being here. Yeah. I am going to say this before I leave so there's no miscommunication. And so when someone leaves a comment at the end of this video, I do not engage in telepathy. I do not leave my body to astral travel. I do not leave my body to astral project or remote view. I do not do any of those things. I feel that, speaking personally, that would be against the calling I have from Yud-Hey Vav-Hey. If he wants to show me something, he will take me himself in Yeshua's name. When I pray, I tend to keep my prayers short and to the point, because if I get too focused, that's when I feel that those things rear their ugly head. If I start focusing on something too much, whatever happened to me in the dumbs has stayed with me through my life. And I don't want to take advantage of those spiritual gifts, so to speak, and that's probably the wrong term. But I don't engage in any of that. I also am able to create a dream and bring people into it. I am able to invade your dreams. I do not engage in that. I find that to be extremely wrong and against Yud-Hey Vav-Hey. And I don't want to do anything to upset my great grand almighty I am, living God, creator, and savior. I want to be in sync and in line with him and his wishes. Sand and Sunaholic says, do you think reading back to front is a sign of possible mind control? I've never thought about it that way. Honestly, I always just thought that because I'm just so curious and impatient that I wanted to know the ending first. But you have a very valid point. You have a very valid point. So let me see. Okay, Clara. 13th birthday? Ah. All right, before I close this video down. Ellie, wherever you are, sweetie pie, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ellie. Happy birthday, sweet girl. So to everybody that's having a birthday out there, have a blessed and beautiful day. Thank you all so much for your time. And I'll see you soon. And please don't hate me. Please don't get mad at me. And if I said anything wrong in this video, please understand I'm just giving you my testimony for what it is. I did this with Russ Dizdar and the SIIU team. He said, okay, I have some wacky recalls, but I'm just going to tell you like it is, put it on the table, and we can march onward from there. We can work with that. So I'll just tell you what I remember and what happened. And then what Russ Dizdar and the SIIU team would do is they'd listen to me, and then we would go into prayer in Yeshua's name. We would ask for my altars to be reintegrated. And that's it. That's how I've been able to deprogram, is through prayer, through the blood of the Lamb. I know that is not what everyone chooses, and I'm not going to judge anyone if they want to do something else with their free will. But as your ordained 33 Ezekiel watchman, I'm begging you to turn to Jesus Christ of Nazareth, Yeshua HaMashiach, and I would be honored to do the saving prayer with you. And I can baptize you as well. Says Yud Hey Vav Hey. It is only through him that I am able to do these things. And it is through him that I am alive and able to talk to you. So I'm really, really honored, grateful, and humbled that any of you and all of you would be here. So Audrey Cotton Smith, I love you too. Yes, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, is the only way. He is the only light. And he is the truth. Without him, you have no way, no light, and no truth. Second to that, you have no life and no love. He's the creator of it. And if you want that, you go to the creator. And to get to the creator, you get saved and baptized to Yeshua HaMashiach. Bob, thank you very much. And, well, as far as my 37 years as being a super soldier, it was my privilege to serve all of you. And I pray that going forward, as your Ezekiel 33 watchman, I can continue to serve you and have Abba's will be done. I love you, I love you, I love you.